Have you ever wondered what led to the most dramatic military operation of World War II, the D-Day invasion? The road to D-Day was a complex and strategic journey that involved intricate planning, intense secrecy, and an immense buildup of forces. Let's start with the Atlantic Wall. This was a formidable line of defenses constructed by the Germans along the western coast of Europe. It was an intimidating barrier, stretching from the Arctic Circle to the Spanish border, a testament to the strategic foresight of the German High Command. It was designed to deter any Allied invasion, but it also served as a chilling reminder of the Germans' iron grip on Europe. While the Atlantic Wall was taking shape, the Allies were not idle. They were devising a master plan of their own, known as Operation Bodyguard. The goal of this plan was to deceive the Germans into believing the main invasion force would land somewhere other than Normandy. This was a game of smoke and mirrors, a crafty blend of misinformation, false radio traffic, and dummy equipment. The essence of this plan was not just to mislead, but to create a grand illusion to keep the German forces guessing and spread thin. Planning D-Day was a colossal challenge. It required meticulous coordination of millions of men, thousands of aircraft, and an armada of ships. It was a logistical nightmare, a gargantuan task that required the collaboration of multiple nations. Yet, it was a necessary step in the strategic decision to open a new front against Germany, to relieve pressure on the Soviet Union, and to hasten the end of the war. The stage was set, the Atlantic Wall stood firm, the Allies had spun their web of deception, and the largest amphibious force in history was ready to sail. The world held its breath, the clock ticked down, and the future of Europe hung in the balance. The stage was set for the largest seaborne invasion in history, a day that would forever be known as D-Day. June 6, 1944, a date etched in history, marked the beginning of Operation Overlord. The dawn of this day saw the largest seaborne invasion in history, a bold and daring assault aimed at liberating Nazi-occupied Europe. The assault phase, known as Operation Neptune, was no small feat. The goal was to land 156,000 Allied troops on the heavily fortified beaches of Normandy. These brave men embarked on an endeavor of epic proportions, facing not just the might of the German army, but the turbulent waters of the English Channel, and the capricious whims of the weather. The landing zones, codenamed Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword, were chosen meticulously. Each beach presented its own challenges, from the rugged cliffs of Pointe du Hoc to the urban fortifications of Ouistreham. The landing was a testament to meticulous planning, extraordinary bravery, and sheer force of will. But let's not forget the airborne operations. The night before D-Day, thousands of paratroopers descended into enemy territory, tasked with securing key bridges and disrupting enemy communications. Their actions were vital in preventing German reinforcements from reaching the beaches. These airborne heroes faced a daunting task, dropping into darkness and uncertainty, knowing full well that the enemy was waiting. The battles at the landing zones were fierce and costly. At Omaha Beach, the Allies faced a maelstrom of gunfire from entrenched German positions. It was a scene of chaos and carnage, but through sheer grit and determination, the Allies persevered, securing a foothold that would change the course of the war. D-Day was not just an operation. It was a testament to human courage and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. It was a day that showcased the extraordinary lengths that ordinary people were willing to go to, in the name of freedom and justice. It was a day that would forever be remembered as the turning point of the Second World War. The D-Day invasion was only the beginning of a fierce and bloody battle, the Battle of Normandy. This pivotal confrontation, which lasted from June to August of 1944, was characterized by brutal combat and high casualty rates on both sides. The Allied forces, fresh from their victory on the beaches, had to face the full force of the German defenses. In the weeks following D-Day, the Allies fought hard to secure the Cotentin Peninsula. This region was of strategic importance, providing a gateway to the rest of France. The city of Cherbourg, with its deep-water port, was a particular prize. After a fortnight of intense fighting and heavy losses, the city fell to the Allies on June 26. Yet, the capture of Cherbourg was not the end of the battle. The Germans had sabotaged the port installations, and it took weeks to repair the damage. Meanwhile, the Allies were locked in a fierce struggle to break out from the Cotentin Peninsula. The terrain, a patchwork of hedgerows and narrow lanes known as bocage, was perfect for defense, and the Germans exploited it to the full. The fighting was savage, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Finally, on July 25th, the Allies launched Operation Cobra. This massive aerial bombardment, followed by a ground offensive, punched a hole in the German lines. The breakout from the Cotentin Peninsula had been achieved, and the road to the rest of France lay open. But the Battle of Normandy was far from over. The Allies had to face further fierce resistance as they pushed inland, culminating in the Battle of the Falaise Pocket in August. By the time the battle ended, the Allies had suffered over 200,000 casualties. The Germans had lost even more, with estimates ranging from 400,000 to 500,000 men. The Battle of Normandy was a crucial turning point in the war, but the road to Berlin was still long and fraught with challenges. What could be more symbolic of the Allies' progress than the liberation of the City of Lights, Paris? In the late summer of 1944, the joyous yet cautious liberation of Paris unfolded. The city had been under German occupation since June 1940, and the liberation marked a significant turning point in the Second World War. The French resistance played an instrumental role in this liberation. These brave men and women were a diverse group of fighters, ranging from former French soldiers to ordinary citizens. They carried out sabotage, intelligence gathering, and guerrilla warfare, making life difficult for the German occupiers and paving the way for the eventual liberation. On August 19, 1944, the French resistance sparked an uprising in Paris. They erected barricades, attacked German forces, and took control of key buildings. Their bravery and determination were met with harsh resistance, but they held on, awaiting the arrival of the Allied forces. Meanwhile, the Allies, led by General Dwight D. Eisenhower, initially planned to bypass Paris. The city, though a symbol of French culture and resistance, held little strategic military value. However, the insurrection in Paris forced their hand. The Allies could not risk the Germans crushing the resistance and regaining full control of the city. Thus, on August 25th, French and American forces entered Paris. The city's liberation was met with jubilation. Parisians lined the streets cheering and waving flags. The joy was tempered with caution, though. The war was far from over, and Paris bore the scars of 4 long years of occupation. The liberation of Paris held immense symbolic value for the Allies and the French people. It boosted morale and signaled the beginning of the end for the Axis powers. Strategically, it served as a stepping stone for the Allies' continued push eastward. With Paris liberated, the Allies were now poised to push into Germany. The City of Lights had endured the darkness of occupation and emerged as a beacon of hope in a war-torn world. Paris once again was free. The successful D-Day invasion marked the beginning of the end for the Third Reich. This victory was the stepping stone for the Allies to push into the heart of Germany, and marked the commencement of the final stages of the war in Europe. The Battle of the Bulge, a desperate counterattack by the German forces, was the last major German offensive on the Western Front. Despite the initial surprise and the heavy losses inflicted on the Allies, the German forces were eventually pushed back after a month of fierce fighting. This battle demonstrated the resilience and determination of the Allied forces, and it was clear that the momentum of the war had shifted in their favor. Next, the crossing of the Rhine was a significant milestone. The Rhine River was a symbolic barrier, and crossing it meant breaching the last major natural defense of the German heartland. The successful crossing was a testament to the strategic planning and execution of the Allied forces. It was also a psychological blow to the German forces, shattering any remaining hope of holding back the Allies. As the Allies advanced further into Germany, they encountered increasingly desperate resistance, but nothing could halt their progress. The combined strength of the American, British, and Soviet forces was simply too overwhelming. Town after town, city after city, the Allies liberated the German populace from the grip of the Third Reich. Finally, on May 7, 1945, Germany unconditionally surrendered. The war in Europe was over. The D-Day invasion had played a pivotal role in this victory. It had opened up a second front in the West, relieving pressure on the Soviet Union, and had provided a launching pad for the final push into Germany. The D-Day invasion and the subsequent push into Germany marked a turning point in World War II. The tide of the war had changed, and the Allies were now on the path to victory. The sacrifices made and the courage shown by those who fought on D-Day and in the subsequent battles will forever be remembered. The echoes of D-Day continue to resonate, but what was its lasting impact? Let's delve into the aftermath of that monumental day and the profound changes it precipitated. In the wake of D-Day, the human cost was staggering. Thousands of lives were lost, both military and civilian, painting a grim picture of the toll that war exacts. Yet the sacrifices made were not in vain. D-Day marked a turning point in World War II, a pivot that ultimately led to the downfall of Nazi Germany. But the impact of D-Day extended beyond the immediate victory. It shaped the geopolitical landscape of the world, specifically Europe, in ways that resonate to this day. The successful invasion opened a new front against the Nazis, relieving pressure on the Soviet Union and rebalancing the scales of power. It was a clear demonstration of the Allies' military strength and their commitment to defeating the forces of fascism. The end of the war brought about a new world order. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, setting the stage for the Cold War. Europe was divided, with Eastern Europe falling under Soviet influence, while Western Europe leaned towards democracy and capitalism, largely due to the Marshall Plan, which was an American initiative to aid Western Europe. D-Day also had a profound impact on the collective consciousness. It became a symbol of heroic sacrifice, of unity in the face of a common enemy, and the lengths to which nations would go to preserve freedom and justice. The stories of bravery and heroism that emerged from D-Day continue to inspire generations. In the annals of history, D-Day stands out not just as a military operation, but as a testament to human courage and resilience. It shaped the course of the 20th century, influencing political, social, and cultural narratives worldwide. D-Day was a day of heroes, a day of sacrifice, and a day that changed the course of history. The D-Day invasion was more than a military operation. It was a defining moment in human history. It was a time when the forces of freedom and tyranny clashed on the beaches of Normandy, setting the stage for the final act of the Second World War. In the prelude to the invasion, we witnessed an unparalleled buildup of forces, with the Allies meticulously planning and preparing for the largest amphibious assault in history. Operation Overlord, as it was named, was a massive undertaking that required not only military might, but also the courage and determination of countless individuals. Then came the invasion itself, a day of intense fighting and extraordinary bravery. The first wave of soldiers who stormed the beaches faced daunting odds, but their courage and tenacity turned the tide. Their actions marked the beginning of the end for Hitler's fortress Europe. The Battle of Normandy was a brutal and protracted conflict, but the Allied forces, fueled by the momentum of D-Day, pushed on. They fought through the hedgerows and villages of Normandy, gradually liberating the region from Nazi control. The liberation of Paris was a symbolic and significant victory. As the City of Lights was freed from the dark grip of the Nazis, it marked a turning point in the war, and a beacon of hope for a world at war. From there, the Allies pushed into Germany, marching towards the heart of the Third Reich. The road was long and fraught with obstacles, but their relentless advance hastened the end of the war. In the aftermath of D-Day, we see the profound legacy of this critical event. The invasion not only changed the course of the war, but also reshaped the geopolitical landscape, setting the stage for the world as we know it today. We remember D-Day not just for its strategic importance, but for the courage and sacrifice of those who fought to reclaim a world in darkness. It's a testament to human spirit, and a reminder that when faced with tyranny, humanity can and will rise to challenge it.